What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. This week we're back in the clean room at Salvage with our 1970 Chevelle project. This thing has been kind of sitting around for the last couple weeks while we're letting the paint cure. It's finally time to start putting this thing back together. We have parts scattered around, all of our turbo system stuff, engine parts. We got our ECU and our PD16 for our engine control and basically all the electronics in the car. It is finally time to get this thing assembled, start running all of our plumbing for our turbos, finish up our fuel system. And before we get any of that stuff on there, there are a couple more cosmetic items we're gonna have to address. We have a new valley cover to paint and throw on. We're also gonna go ahead and squirt some black paint on these heads. Now that we start putting it all together, it just kind of stands out, all this like raw cast metal. So it definitely is out of place with all this shininess going on. So that's the first step. Time to protect the car and get some paint sprayed. All right, now that we got our new valley cover on, it's time to go ahead and install our Motion Raceworks steam kit. Got all our parts laid out here. And the whole idea behind the steam kit is to release the steam or the pressure in the highest point of our cylinder head. So on all four corners here, we have a port, which will get these little riser things with a little gasket piece. And then you got some NPT fittings, which go into these hard stainless lines. And then there'll be a one part line that's gonna come out that we're gonna probably route to our radiator. And what that does is, like I said, it just releases all the steam in your head. So just makes it a little safer on a high horsepower engine like this. All right, moving right along. We got our steam crossover kit installed. Everything's tidy, looking good. So next step is to get our Holley Sniper EFI manifold, get everything mounted up. All right, we got all our mounting hardware for our intake manifold hand tightened. So basically there's a sequence they want you to tighten this thing down. So if you're anything like me and you have very short attention span and possibly some OCD or some ADD, I went ahead and labeled up the pattern. So go ahead and get that done and we'll be ready to possibly start putting on our throttle bodies and keep moving. Mike's already started assembling the cooling system and parts of a turbo system. We are going to continue trying to get the front engine bay area all put together. One of the parts that still has to happen is finish off our fuel system. These are Holley Sniper EFI fuel rails that match with our dual plenum, dual throttle body Sniper intake from Holley. All right, steadily moving forward, getting all the stuff mounted in the engine bay, moving on to our custom-made tubular manifolds for our turbochargers. These things are pretty much a work of art. These things are dope. A lot of hours went into TIG welding all this awesome stainless material from Vibrant. So also got our Garret turbos. Those are going to be going on, as well as all the other exhaust components, wastegate dump tubes, downpipes. Just trying to get everything bolted on so we can start moving into the plumbing and wiring phase. So steadily moving along. Here we got our turbo system kind of laid out on the table, a bunch of our Vibrant V-band clamps, Garret turbochargers, Turbo Smart wastegates. These are actually our cold side plumbing. And here's the dump tubes for the wastegates. These are going to be exiting out the fender, as you saw during some of the Fab series.
We've been steadily pushing, trying to get everything in the engine bay packed back in here after all the paint work. We have gone and started doing plumbing as well. If you could tell, we've got some fuel lines under our fuel rail. These are teed from junction here in the middle from our dash 10 line. Our regulator is mounted down here with our pressure sensor. We had to make some modifications to our intercooler, and right now what we're working on is getting our sway bar installed. Kind of got lost for a while. We had like 3 different sway bars that we had sitting in the shop and we couldn't figure out which was the right one. So we finally got that figured out, got it painted. Now we're gonna get it mounted up. This is part of our Roadster Shop spec chassis. And then what we have now are some really nice billet coil mount brackets, because we're gonna be remote mounting our coils real low, kind of like we did on our last project on dime bag. They're gonna be real low down here and out of the way. It works out real well because our header design, all the runners come up. So it's gonna be a real easy shot for our wires to come straight out of the spark plugs down, and then we're gonna mount them onto the sway bar, which is gonna mount right here between the frame rails. Using some MSD smart coils, and these are smart coil specific style mount that we have here. Boom, and they'll be chilling right here. Our ignition wires will go right here, and they'll be just like that. All right, got the coil brackets mounted in here, and all 4 of our coils mounted up. These are a set of MSD smart coils. These are really good for if you're using high cylinder pressures. In our case, we're shooting for over 1,000 horsepower to the wheel. So at the crank, we're talking almost 1,100 horsepower. Turbocharged application, so there's gonna be a lot of boost. Cylinder pressures will be real high, so we need a lot of energy to jump the gap on the spark plugs. We are real low and tight. We're pretty close here to our pulley, but there's plenty of room here. Almost 3/4 of an inch between the post here and our belt and the pulley. Now we just have to duplicate that on the other side, and we'll be finished up mounting our coils. While I was building the spark plug wires, Mike went ahead and found a spot to put the R5 VCU. Now we can start running our wire harness. We have a fully terminated harness for the R5 from Haltech. So this is gonna make it a lot easier for us. Rather than making custom wire harness, it has all the inputs and outputs already terminated on here for all the extra sensors, whether it be temperature, whether it be position sensors, Hall effect sensors. Everything is in here. One thing I do have to do is put a hole in our firewall. So I'm gonna start laying this guy out so I can figure out where that hole is gonna be and keep on moving with getting this thing all finished up.
Andrew's doing some wiring, I'm doing some fabrication over here. Here we have the intercooler or the Chevelle. Here we have an air temperature sensor. So this has to go into the intercooler so the computer knows the air temp at this point in the air intake system. It comes with this little bung. We made a mark, make sure it wasn't interfering with anything, so it's going to go right here. Be able to thread our air temp sensor into there.
All right, our intercooler is ready to go back in. Dave welded in this bung right here for our sensor. I've cleaned it out, got a little metal shavings out of that. Thank God I did that.
I'm gonna get this thrown back in so Andrew can make the hard lines for the turbo system.
All right, continuing on with all the plumbing. Finalized all the hard lines that I had here for the blow-off valves. Ended up running some hard lines here, bent those out. Looks really cool. Like having some cool little touches like this right in the engine bay, right up front so you can see it. It's coming together real slick. Also started all the wastegate plumbing. We're using Vibrant silicone vacuum hose as well as their forged 90-degree MPT fittings. So we've got that. Our wastegate plumbing finalized on the driver's side already with our source into the turbocharger compressor housing over to our Haltech blue solenoid. Waiting on some filters here. You know, it's not 100% necessary to run a filter, but I like to run them because dirt could get inside there and mess up the valve, so you'll probably have it working for a very short amount of time. And this is a street car, so it'll be on the street all the time, so we're gonna get a filter for this as well as the other side. I'm also waiting on a Vibrant vacuum block that we're gonna have on the firewall that'll tee off to our Haltech 3-bar map sensor. I have a couple more ports here on the Holley intake for some more vacuum referencing. And on any kind of dual plenum vehicle, you wanna have both plenums joined to your map sensor source, so you're not just getting, say, one bank, you're getting a more accurate value for the what would be the total volume. So we are gonna tee these two plenums together, run it into the vacuum block, and then we'll have our regulator plumbed into there as well as our map sensor. All right, I've got the vacuum manifold mounted on our firewall, and I've already started plumbing some of the lines into it. You can see I've got my hose here to the one bank of the plenum. I got the other side to the other bank of the plenum. The side outlet I have going down to my regulator for my fuel pressure. And then this last leg here is gonna be our source for our 4-bar map sensor, which I have right here. I'm gonna have to get a little mount location for this guy. I don't want to put it on the firewall, so I'm gonna try to make a bracket that I can maybe mount it. It's just kind of somewhere low over here, the back of the cylinder head or floating above the valley.
Andrew's getting our boost sensors hooked up. Meanwhile, we are getting the center console together for the Chevelle. And with that, we're doing a little bit of a switch, or a shift, if you call it. This is our original shifter we had designed the console for, and this is the actual factory BMW shifter that matches our transmission. So the computer that goes with our transmission already has the pre-programmed CAN protocols to talk to this directly without any changes. This shifter, we would have to CAN sniff and do a bunch of coding and reprogramming. So we're gonna go ahead and use this shifter because it'll be more plug and play. And in order to do that though, we need to remake mounting points for the shifter. So I already cut out the old mounting points, reamed out the hole a little bit to fit the new one. And now I have these couple brackets here. So this one, I think is for the rear right here. It's gonna sit under these two holes. I'm gonna bend it down, bend it over, have little gussets for more support. Similar idea on the front. It's gonna sit underneath these two holes here and get bent up and has weldable gussets as well. Then I'll weld the bottom tab that sits flush with the bottom of the console to the console, give it support on each side. Once that's done, we'll have to flip it over because, you know, we have a different shape here surrounding the shifter that sticks through. So we're gonna have to make a bezel that will eventually get welded on to the console itself. So let's bend these up, get them fitted, and then weld onto the console. Once our shifter's in place, then we could flip everything and design our bezel.
All right, well, Dave is putting the final touches on the center console.
We're moving along in the interior here. Lee's got our dash. He's got the whole bottom section already done. As always, looks amazing. Before he went any further, he wanted to test fit it, make sure he has I don't know, all the proper clearance around everything before he goes wrapping the top section. And we're sort of kind of debating what we're going to do here on the inside piece for our cluster here. And we also have to kind of figure out what we're going to do around the glove compartment here, where our door will close onto this lip on the actual dash. So we're going to get this thing fit back in and have at it.
Thinking about, instead of trying to highlight all of the seams that are going on with this thing and make it look too complicated, that I was going to stick to just having a perimeter one be my decorative stitch, and then the other ones are going to be just plain seams like that, you know, so that way we're not just throwing a bunch of red stitching all over the place. So I'm going to carry that up through here and around down the other side, and then this seam and this seam right here are going to be just like that one.
Just the black.
Yep. Pop this one back out.
Pop it back out. Put it in, pull it out. Take 3,000.
All right, well, with the Chevelle coming close to completion, and you know it's been a long journey for us, for the customer, we finally got the Chevelle out of the clean room, and it's time to do the exhaust. And something I've always wanted here in our shop to do stuff like exhaust and suspension stuff is a 4-post lift. So we got two post lifts, as you guys probably have seen. And I've always wanted a 4-post, and it's kind of crazy because I checked my email the other day and I got a message from Wildfire Lifts, a dude, Brad. It's a father and son. They own a company. They make 4-post lifts that you guys could install in your garages, and we happened to acquire one. So shout out to Wildfire Lifts. Right now it is in a huge box, and I'm gonna start taking the task to get this thing put together. Not all excited about doing that right now, but it's gonna be very beneficial to us. So this area right here that is kind of like our fabrication area, you guys have seen us build a lot of stuff in this area. Now we are going to have a 4-post lift. So hopefully we're gonna be building some pretty cool stuff on it. So let's get this thing unboxed and start laying out these parts. Look at that. I say it's a success.
All right, you guys have been asking for it, and here is the update for the twin turbo Chevelle. We have been working on this thing tirelessly in the background. Me personally have been working a lot on getting the electrical system done. Lee's also been working a lot getting our interior, our custom interior upholstery completed. As you can see, we've already started to put some of that inside. Our rear seats, our center console, the dash is all wrapped in our Alcantara and leather, looking real nice. I've been doing tons of wiring on the car, probably 90% done. I've been installing all of our awesome Haltech electronics into the car to get this thing running. We're using a Haltech Nexus R5 VCU to run our engine, as well as a lot of other components on the car, because it's not just an ECU, it's a power distribution module that can control all the electronics in your car. We're running all the lighting from the VCU, the engine and air conditioning and all the other components in the car. With the R5, we're also using a PD16 in the trunk of the car to kind of give everything back here: exterior lights, fuel pumps, fuel level sensor, our ethanol content sensor that's also down there in our return line for our fuel system, all wired straight from that PD16 that we've got mounted in the back right there. We have that being communicated, all the information and the triggers being run to that PDM from the VCU with a single CAN cable that's going from the front to the back. So it eliminates a lot of the wiring that's going through the middle of the car. I've also been doing tons of stuff in the engine bay, wiring sensors, all provided by Haltech as well, and finalizing plumbing and all these things under the hood to get this thing running. But we're still not done. Next up is going to be our custom exhaust that we're going to be making on the car using all Vibrant Performance products. So make sure you guys stay tuned so you guys don't miss out on all that cool stuff that's coming up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. We'll see you guys in the next episode.